All right, welcome back to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. So happy you would join us again here. I'm really pumped for this one. We just had a great pre-interview. We do pre-interviews with each one of our guests, and for a guy that I didn't know until today, I tell you what, maybe a little bit of a kindred spirit here. We're both Sunbelt kids here, going to school in the Sunbelt, so we're a little bit of rivals. Although I'm kind of wearing your colors over here, man.
Yeah, I got Big Red going.
Big Brent, how dare you? So happy to have Brent Wagner with us today. Brent is now it's hard for me to call you the retired, the now former head coach at Boyle County High School in beautiful Kentucky. Brent, thanks for being on the show, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Sure, this is a great opportunity. This is fantastic.
That's awesome, man. So, spoiler alert, Brent went to Western Kentucky University. If you've heard this show at all, I'm pretty sure I'm on a pretty good streak where I mention my alma mater every episode. I went to the #1 school in the world, Troy University, and he's kind of got the black. We do a lot of black with our school colors, so we're kind of trading school colors here. Even though I went to the top school, I went to Troy, #2 maybe Western Kentucky. I don't know, You guys had to leave the conference. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Exactly. So, Brent, we're going to talk about some pretty specific things here in today's podcast. I really appreciate, full disclosure, Brent reached out to me to be on the podcast, and really in a very giving posture. Brent said, hey, I did some things that I felt were different at Boyle County, and that achieved success. There were some positive things that happened, some championships. Maybe it would help others. And so we got to talking about, well, what were some of those things? And you know what? I agreed with Brent. There's some things that he created and his staff did that I thought was pretty interesting, different than some others that might do things on the high school level. And I saw kind of universal value in it as well. I think that there are some things that we're going to talk about today and learn from Brent that will help you for sure. Absolutely, if you're a high school coach today, or will be a high school coach one day. And then I think, coming from a college coaching background myself, I think there's some things that our college coaches can learn from today. So before we get into that, Brent, let's learn a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you get started in this awesome sport called track and field?
I was from Danville, Kentucky. I went to Boyle County. I ran at Boyle County. I have a lot of pride there. So
what's Boyle County's mascot?
We are the Rebels.
You're okay. Well, that has its own issues. Okay, so Boyle County. All right. So what you ran there? That's to me, that's special. When you're an alum of a program that you coach, that's pretty special. So growing up there, what events did you get into, and how did you actually even get into track? I
always had a lot of energy as a kid. I was born in Louisville. There was a thing they had it's Jefferson J-Town Elementary. It was a bunny run, and it was a mile run. And I was in the 3rd grade, and I took off. Of course, there's no such thing as pacing. You don't know anything. You just sprint, and you die in 200 meters, and you look back and you think, holy cow, there's a lot of people behind me. And so you just jog some more, and then you sprint some more, and then I end up, I don't know, I think I did pretty well in the whole race in general. So I thought, I guess I can run far, not half bad at this whole thing. And so I was always outside and things. And so did the whole track. And the funny thing is at our high school, we did not have a track when I was there. So we, fundraised, and we fundraised money. We would go clean up trash underneath the bleachers for money. And then we would have spaghetti suppers for $1. It's crazy how times are. You get a spaghetti supper for $1 now. You sell Subway sandwiches, that we made, that the parents made themselves. And that's what you do for fundraising and just trying to get jerseys and things. And then when I, after college, left and came back, and then, I was the assistant for 2 years, and then was the head coach, and those kids had a track. And so I'm not 100% sure if I would have given 1,000% at any other school like I did when I was, at this school.
Certainly. Like I said, being an alum at your school, it says the world, whether it's you're a high school coach and you ran there because you've seen the development, like you said, from no track to a track. And that's radical. If you're a college coach and you're coaching at your alma mater, what a better recruiting tool, right? Like, hey, how I know this school is better than all the others? I went to school here. Like I
Right.
didn't choose a different school and now I'm here. Like I chose this school, you know?
Yeah.
So what events were you in high school?
The 800, the mile when I was younger, and then the 4x4, 4x8, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Is that right?
So,
Did you like the 800? That's a tough event.
oh yeah, just because it's that's when your lungs bleed and you can't move and all that stuff, and that's just part of it. You grow up watching Rocky Balboa and all that stuff. It's kind of like ingrained in you, like that's what you're supposed to do. You don't know any other way to do it. So
Yeah. I have a special place in my heart for the 800 because that actually was my event in high school as well.
there you go.
And
There
I
you go.
was terrible. There's no way I guarantee you have coached high school female athletes that were better than me. That's how bad I was. Yeah. It partly was genetics. Let's just get that straight. Other part was coaching. And I would tell my coaches, I have told my coaches, and they admit it, they were football coaches, so they were not track. And then a little bit of it was, I was like, this sucks. This track is running.
That's the hard part about recruiting. They're like running track. That's terrible. That's what I got to do for conditioning. No. It's not conditioning. It's the total opposite. So
Well, it's going to be fun to talk about how do you change my attitude when I was a kid. How do you change that? And it's cool that you got some tips and tactics to get into that. So we already spoiled it after high school. You went on to Western Kentucky. How did when did being a coach or even a teacher, when did that start coming in your mind? Like, oh, maybe this is what I've meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I have a younger brother, so I was always in the backyard playing with him and, with his friends and stuff like that. Like being the all-time pitcher at baseball or whatever, you just kind of have that little ingrained in you where you're trying to teach him some things. Cause if he's terrible, that means I'm terrible and I can't have that. So, you gotta deal with that whole stuff. But when I was, after college, got a job, and the guy was really big into community service and helping out the community and stuff. So he's like, hey man, my kid's playing soccer, I don't know anything about it, you got to help me. So okay. And it's like they're 6 or 7 years old, so you're just out there coaching and stuff, and you bring high energy and you always have a smile on your face. And then it's like, maybe. And he's like, the next year, hey man, you got to help me. Well, he's the boss, you're not gonna tell him no. So you just it just kind of goes from there. And it was just a bunch of little kids. And after that, I moved back to Danville. Coached my old soccer coach wanted me to coach a different team, like 10-year-old girls. I'm like, man, I don't really know anything about girls. I had a brother, a lot of testosterone in the house. I don't have a clue about that stuff. It's like, oh, you'll like it. So I go and I coach them up, and just so happens one of the kids, her mother was the director of special ed at the high school, and she calls me up and says, hey, I've watched you with practice and I've watched you with games. You need to be a teacher. And I said, there's not a shot in the world I want any part of that at all. I don't want to be a teacher at all.
That is a heck of a compliment, though.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think about that. I mean, how could you ever say that in a negative way to someone? It's like, hey man, you should be a teacher. Like,
yeah,
that is a huge, like, oh, you're exemplifying patience and progression and compassion. We need more of that in teaching. That's really cool. I'm noticing a lot of soccer. Did you play soccer in high school at all? Or
I did play soccer.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
I did that in the fall.
God, okay. So there was some passion you've had for soccer. It wasn't like you just picked it up and.
Correct.
Yeah, that's cool. So you didn't go to school to be a teacher, though. So how did you become a teacher if you didn't get an undergrad in it?
Yeah, they when she called me, I was in sales, had a sales job, enjoyed it, really liked it, and then she said, why don't you come be a teacher? And that was on a Friday, and I said, I'll be honest with you, I out of all due respect, I have no desire to be a teacher at all. I don't want any part of that. And then I thought about it over the weekend, and I thought, this coaching thing seems pretty cool. I could get into this. You get, teaching, you get summers off. It's not it's stressful in a different way than what sales is and stuff like that. So I thought, So I called her up on Monday and I said, I can do this. Okay, sure. And she said, okay, you got to get your master's within, a certain amount of years. And that's all she wrote. So
yeah.
I am 4th and 5th elementary special ed.
So,
and I love it.
So impressive, because it's not like something like if you're in sales and you want to be, can't think of a good example. You go get a certificate, or you just do it, or you start at entry level. You don't get to do that with teaching. You don't get to start entry level teaching to become you had to go back and get a master's. That's commitment.
Well, it's going back to school.
Right.
And so you had to do it. Yeah, you had to go back in school, and so you do it online, and it's one of those things where, hey, if you're going to make a commitment, then this is what you got to do. And so I kind of thought, you can do anything for 2 years. You can suffer through it, and then you always look at the end goal. A lot of the times, you don't look at what today brings. You look at the end goal. So,
were any members of family teachers? Was there any background there, or was this completely new?
No, it was completely new. My dad's an engineer, and my mom's a human resources manager, and so that's how it went. It was I think they instilled a good work ethic and stuff. My dad was always good at holding me accountable, and
an engineer, imagine that.
Yeah, holding me accountable. And usually if I came to him with 4 decisions, the really easy choice, the easy choice, the hard one, or the really, really hard one, he would always take, you need to do the really, really hard one, regardless. Regardless, it's the hardest decision is always the best one you need to do. So there,
that alone proves he's an engineer.
Yeah. And then, mom is, she doesn't get in a bad mood. She has energy. She wakes up early in the morning, and, hey, there's no such thing as a bad day in the Wagner household. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I guess seeing that as an example, you just, when you're around anything every day, that's how that goes.
What did they think when you told them you were going to go back to grad school to become a teacher? Not only to become a teacher, which, God bless, I have so much compassion and love for teachers, a special ed teacher. I mean, I did some when I was in high school, I volunteered with our, I'll call it our local, it was in our school, special ed classes. My best friend, who's like my brother today, his brother has Down syndrome. So I've had, experiences that you talk about, okay, normal patience is here. Patience for being a teacher is a little bit higher. Special ed, it's off the screen. Let me tell you what, the patience, honestly, that you have to have. What did your parents and brother and friends and family, what they like, are you crazy? Or was it like they see it as the noble profession that it is?
I mean, my mom, first off, she was just like, you can do this because that's, you can do this. I mean, think about it.
Gotta love mom.
Yeah. All your friends are, your brother, they enjoyed you. Kids like you in general, you can do this if this is what you want to do. And I don't remember exactly what Dad said, but I'm sure it was a matter of, you make this decision, it's yours. Like, there is no 6 months from now, this sucks, I think I'm gonna change. No, bull. You're going to make a decision. This is what you're going to have to do with it. You're going to follow through, now 10 years down the road, if it's terrible, that's one thing, but you know what? Hey, you told those people you were going to do it. So that's what you're going to do. You're going
committed,
to follow through.
So be committed.
Yeah. And if you're doing it, then you're all in, there's no halfway.
What great kind of both sides of the coin there, right? So you got Dad, seems a little bit more disciplinarian, but the hardest choice is the one you're going to go for because it's going to make you better. But having that, like, hey, you commit. And then the other side of that coin of the, hey, you can do this. Of course, look at all the people that love you, and look what you've done with the soccer kids. Like, of course you're going to be a teacher. Knock yourself out. You're going to be out, right? I mean, what great to have both sides of that. That's a pretty important thing to have.
Yeah, mom was definitely the yes you can, and Dad was more of the, you make a decision, you own it, it's yours. So,
yes you can, yes you better.
There you go. That hits it.
So you obviously do it, which again is a testament to Mom's belief. She knew you could do it, and Dad's was like, yep, okay, you committed, nice job, good way to do
Sure.
it. That's the way to be.
Yeah.
So you start teaching 4th and 5th grade special ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
4th and 5th grade special ed.
So how do you start coaching did you immediately start coaching at Boyle County, or was there?
I think it was a year. I think a year went by, and then they old track coach was there, and so he called me up and he's like, hey, why don't you be the assistant? Okay. And I didn't think I I didn't think I would like it because I showed up to practice and, it was more of a relaxed kind of atmosphere and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, oh, I can't do this. I would be much more of a drill sergeant if, we're taking these drills and stuff that we're doing serious. We're doing, all of this, this is way too relaxed. This seems more like of a, kind of like these kids are just out here for fun stuff. We're not out here for fun. We're out here to, get better and win and push the individual as far as they can. But, you learn things from everybody. And the crazy thing is during warm-ups was my favorite time because I was way more relaxed than I thought I ever would be, because I thought to myself, if I treat this entire thing like a football, warm-ups like football where there's not a lot of talking, we're clapping on each stretch and stuff. I was like, this isn't going to work. I won't get anybody to run for me. And so, that's where I established a whole lot of rapport with the kids during warmups. And, you talk trash with them. And you know what, back in the day, I tell you what, if I was in my prime right now, I could take you in the 200. I mean, just stuff like that. You just got to talk trash. I mean, if you're not talking trash, it's, it's just not working. So, or, today, I tell you what, we got 8 200s today. I tell you what, which one of you all is going to start crying on number 6? I tell you, and it's not it's not demeaning at all. It's definitely more of a motivating kind of a style. That's what I have. And so it would, hey, we're going to be mentally tough today. It's just it's that whole thing, or I'm joking around with them. So yeah, it's,
so you spent a couple years as the assistant.
Yes.
And then transitioned over to the head coach.
Yes. I took over in 2011.
2011. And so tell us, 2011 through 2019, my math tells me that's 8 seasons or 9 seasons. Some of
seasons.
Yeah, some of there's math that plays into it. And again, remember high school and college in Alabama. So, this ain't a math test, people.
Right.
So 9 seasons. What were?
Because you got to count 11. That's what.
Exactly.
That's what
it's not just 9 minus 1. I got that one. It's like,
right.
Oh, you got to count that one. Exactly.
Sure.
So in those 9 seasons, and maybe tell us what was kind of the culture. Championship wise, not the culture, but like, did you guys win county championships and state championships before you? And then tell us after you, what were some of the results after you took over?
We won, including the time I was there. We won when I was a freshman in 1995. The boys won the region. You basically have the region and then the conference, but the conference really doesn't have anything to do with the regional or the state. So it's just a, kind of a separate conference. But you win the region, the conference, and then you have the state in Kentucky. So we won the region in 1995 on the boys' side, and then the boys won the region in 2010. So we had 2 region titles.
That's it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me. Okay. Yeah. All right. So
I mean, that's as a team. Now there were several.
Right.
There were several state winners individually, several different relays. Yeah.
Right. So you take over in 2011. So it's kind of the same, or what maybe changed in those 9 years that you were the head coach?
I did a very good job recruiting the kids in the high school. And that was kind of my mojo. And it all started with a conversation. When I was in sales, I had a buddy of mine he was very common sense approach to everything. You want to lose weight, burn more calories than you take in. Awesome. Give me $200 for my fantastic knowledge. It's one of those things. How are we going to win the game today? Well, you're going to score more points. Awesome. I'm the best coach. It's kind of one of those very, very common sense things. So I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to be the head track coach. And he was like, oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And I said, here's the deal. I said, I'm going to spend, all kinds of money. I'm going to get every DVD that I can find, and I'm going to soak up as much knowledge. I'm going to know everything about the triple jump, about the shot put. I mean, it'll take me a couple of years. And I'm sitting there talking, but I said, I'll know every single thing about every single sport. And he goes, that's awesome, but that's the dumbest thing you can possibly do. I said, what are you talking about?
He's a real friend. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and trust me, since he's a friend, I was very used to his being very blunt.
Right.
But that's terrible. And I was like, How's that even terrible? He goes, it's track and field. He said, I can't outcoach anybody, but if I go get the fastest kid in the school and you got the kid who just randomly shows up, I promise you my kid's going to beat your kid, regardless of your knowledge. And I thought, that kind of makes sense. And he said, all your effort needs to be on recruiting the best athletes in the school. So I go home, I turn on the TV, college football's on, and I see, Kornheiser and Kirk Herbstreit, and they're all talking, and they're all going nuts, and they're talking about, well, it's week whatever, and it's this and this, and well, the recruiting class is so fantastic, and this and this, and Alabama, and Florida State and Florida, and they're all LSU, they're all talking about Georgia, and they're all talking about the recruiting. And I thought, man, there might be something to this. There might be something to this. And so there's a guy, commentator, and that I listen to, and he talks about, there's a reason why the top 5 football programs are always in the top 5. He's like, yes, Nick Saban, he's not to take anything away from him. He goes, yes, they are fantastic coaches he goes, but do you think they're routinely that much better than everybody else? He goes, why? He goes, I'll tell you right now, the top 5 recruiting classes, the top 5 recruiting programs, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be in the finals. He goes, I can tell you who's going to be in the Final Four just based on the recruiting classes.
Right.
And I thought, okay, got all these people smarter than me telling me all this stuff. Maybe there's something to this. So I thought to myself, okay. And that's where my whole mojo started about recruiting. And I just went after all of the athletes in the high school. And I basically built a college football, college basketball type atmosphere with track and field. I made track and field the cool sport. It was not a hobby of just something it's just something to do. We were there for a purpose. We had success. We won 5 state championships in 9 years. We won 13 region titles. We had 4 state records. We should have had 6, but my guy in the 1 and the 200, there was wind, even though in the tape, there's no one's hair's moving or anything like that. It killed me, but hey, so that's part of it. But our girls won in 16, 17, and 18, and our boys won in 18 and 19. So 18 was pretty special because our boys and our girls won.
I mean, any state championship, and I don't care, I come from Alabama where there's, at least when I was there were 6 classes. I think there's more now. So, it's watered down in that sense.
Sure.
But even, the small school, the 1A in Alabama, to win a state championship as a team, certainly as an individual, there's a lot of things that go on, but as a team, I mean, so many things have to line up, not only positively for you and your kids, but sometimes you need a baton to drop from the guys that might take that trophy from you. So to win 5 state championships, and then in 18, maybe my microphone's not working. Did you say the boys and the girls won state titles?
Correct. Yes.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's super, super hard.
Yeah, our girls had gotten 4th in 2012 and 2013. We got 3rd in 2015. Our boys got 4th in 17. So it just, each year just kind of built up on it, built up on each. And we are class 2A in Kentucky. There's 3 classes, 1, 2, and 3. We are 2A, and we are in the middle of 2A as far as enrollment. So there's not like, we're not the biggest. What's the biggest fish in the smallest pond or anything like that? We're in the middle of a hunt.
All right.
So.
And what year did you say? 2016 was the first state championship title?
Yes, on the girls' side.
So let's start getting into some specifics then, because you talked about bringing. I like how you said that you brought a college football recruiting mentality to not only you. Can I assume that you brought along your coaching staff in the same type of mentality, or was this a one-man show, if you will?
Oh yeah, no, I had several assistant coaches, and yes. But I mean, I didn't go out and recruit the coaches. like they weren't with me at the beginning, but they just kind of, it just fell into place. Destiny, planets aligned, all that
Right.
stuff.
Did they help with some of the things that we're going to talk about here, some of these tactics and best practices? Did they also assist you with that? So did they kind of have that same attitude of, okay, we're going to go recruit the best athletes, or did you just bring them all and they just coached?
The funny thing is when I started, I was, I did all the recruiting and, I did everything. And then finally, once we start having success towards the end, the coaches are going, well, dude, you can find somebody, just go recruit them. But just find somebody. And
That
then
easy.
finally, yeah. And then the best part of it is you'd have the assistant coaches going, I mean, guys, just find me somebody. Like, find me XYZ, or they would hear about a football kid that would do really well, or they're like, we need that guy, we need her, we need XYZ, and it was so they all got into it as well. Because I mean, when it's very exciting. Each year it builds on itself, but it's also very exciting because technically every year is new, because you get new kids all the time. I mean, unless you're recruiting, unless you've been recruiting for 10 years and you got a lot of the athletes there anyway. But I mean, that's tough. But
I think you're dead on. It is new, not only because you're thinking on your program, because that's what we're focused on right now. You've got new kids, and kids have graduated, but all your competitors, there may have been an amazing 8th grade class that now Boyle County's rival are now freshmen. It's like, oh crap, these guys they're on the varsity team now. I'm that changed their complexity of their team.
Well, and what we always liked about it is because, and this is part of my sales pitch, recruiting pitch to all the people, I would say, guys, at the end of the day, you can have not ran track at all and contribute in relay. We had our first boys championship, 3 out of the 4, we won the 4x1. None of them had ever ran track. And so if you don't think, I use that all the time as far as you never ran track before, that doesn't mean you can't win. That doesn't mean you can't win. And we did a good job about, we always said experience means nothing, and what you did last year means nothing. So therefore, hey, just because you were fast last year, if somebody comes in here and steals your spot, that's just part of it. So, it's just a matter of getting the baton around and doing the exchanges. And a lot of times the new kids are even better because they don't know to be nervous.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. So your first team title was in 2016. You took over the team in 2011. So that's, 5+ seasons there. Was it a build up or it couldn't have been immediate, right? Because why didn't you win the other 5 titles, barring all the other things that have to go on with it? Was what we're about to talk about a progression of what you learned, and you had to kind of do some things wrong and then adjust, or how did this come about, this type of college football recruiting?
I think it takes a while to get. I mean, it takes a while, and I don't mean it takes a while to get everyone in. I mean, at one point, the last 3 years, we had easily over 100 kids on the track team. Now,
wow.
And some of that is because they just want to be part of it, stuff like that. But, basically what you got to do is recruiting. You got to look at it as you're a 5th grader and you're having a party and you want the cool guy in the room to come to your party. I mean, that's basically all this is. I mean, basketball's got a birthday party. Football's got a birthday party. Baseball's got a birthday party. You're track and field. You're throwing out invitations, and you got to be the coolest guy on the block. And, that's what I used to tell everybody. We're just trying to get people to come to the birthday party, man. That's what we're trying to do.
Now, that's interesting because I would think that's fairly high school specific. And what I mean by that is you talk about that 5th grader, they still don't know what they are. They don't know that they're a volleyball player, basketball, baseball. And so you've got to make your birthday party track. Like, oh, 5th grade, yeah, you should be a track kid. Absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. The reason I say maybe not, that's very high school specific is college, 99% of the kids, maybe a little high, 90+% of the kids that do college and track, that do track in college, did it in high school. So now your birthday party is my school is better than that school. And
sure.
Yeah. So that's interesting to talk about it in relation to the other sports. You're really recruiting not necessarily against other sports, maybe baseball, because that, it completely overlaps and things like that. But you don't care that a kid does football as long as he does track, right? And they don't care if you do
Right.
soccer or volleyball as long as he or she does track in the spring, right?
And I mean, I would tell them all the time, what are you doing in the spring? If they were a soccer player or if they were, football. Well, I don't really do anything. I said, well, we can make you faster. And that's part of the whole recruiting thing is not so much what can that kid do for us. We went at it as what we can do for you. This is what we can do for you. I mean, you got to get the coolest guy in the grade. You got to get the coolest guy in the school to do track because it can't just be because then all of a sudden it's the cool sport. I mean, I went after one of the best athletes in football at the time, and I got him. And it just so happens he ran track. He loved it, and against our rivals, the next fall season, he caught an 87-yard bomb, and everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, what did that kid do? He's flying out there." And him and his parents said, "I ran track," and that right there is gold.
I mean, we see this on social media and stuff, and it's completely correct. This single sport specialization thought process. I saw someone had tweeted, I don't know if a coach, a basketball coach or Major League Baseball player had said that if a coach talks to you or your kid about just focusing on their sport, they don't have your kid's best interest at heart. They have their best interest at heart. So I love this, hey, football, awesome. What do you do in the spring? Not stop playing football and do year-round track. Basketball, well, what are you doing after basketball season? Not stop doing basketball, become a better basketball player then by coming to track. What a great attitude. We need the basketball coaches and the football coaches and the volleyball coaches to have that same attitude. You playing football? Well, don't just sit around in the spring. Go join the track team. Go get better. Every event, by the way. Throws, linemen, wide receivers.
Well, that's how that's a lot of how we recruited our throwers. We said, look, we'll get your footwork.
Mm-hmm.
We'll work on footwork. And not only that too is my philosophy was it's a different kind of confidence. Yes, you're giving them confidence in a different sport other than what their main sport is. Plus, they don't have the same guy. I mean, my kids, we have a great relationship with our alumni and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm sure they would not want me in their ear 12 months a year.
That's
give me some, it's like a mental break.
Yeah.
And we didn't up until except for my last year, we didn't do a whole lot of indoor track, and a lot of that is just because. Track's a long season, and therefore, I read the body language of a lot of kids that would do indoor and stuff. And I mean, by the time the state meet rolled around, they were mentally done. That I would ask our kids, and they were like, "Oh, so and so, they're just mentally shot. They're just wanting to be done with it." And so, and our kids were always jacked and ready to go. So, I mean, in hindsight, I could have, you can always do things better and stuff, but, maybe take a handful to indoor, the ones that are crazy passionate about it and stuff. But, I don't think they would want me in their ear. And plus, they don't have it. I mean, if you're around football, if you're around basketball all the time, you don't have an opportunity to miss it. I can't tell you how many track kids or how many football kids would go, "Coach, I promise you track's my favorite sport." And I'd be like, "That's awesome." And I'd pat them on the back, and I'd know as soon as the fall came and the Friday night lights got, they'd forget about me in a heartbeat, which was fine. They're high school kids. And I mean, that's the thing. But, if you have a track kid that does football and he has success, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's what you want. That is a walking billboard, if you will, of what we can do. And so therefore, when there's one, then all of a sudden there's, it like multiplies. If you get the cool kid that has results, then he's going to help recruit for you. Then all of a sudden you get 3 and 4. You get 3 and 4 difference makers. That's huge on your team.
Well, let's start talking about that then. So we talked about the importance of recruiting, and hopefully that is, I don't know, maybe that's table stakes. Like everybody knows, okay, if I want to have a track team, because I have to assume it's the same in football. Maybe it's easier in football because that's I don't know what to call it. Maybe that's the most popular sport, and certainly by participation numbers on the NFHS it is, on the boys' side anyway.
I think a lot of that too, though, is because they have elementary football. You can get into early sports earlier than you can track. So therefore, it's almost like they've got a habit of getting in a certain sport before they get a chance to do track.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on where your location is.
Yes.
For sure.
Because I had to go in there and fight the board for an elementary track team. And we ended up getting one, but that was part of my argument was like, hey, these kids can do stuff. They can do other sports. And so
you talked about, recruiting the quote unquote popular kid, was the volleyball player or the football player, and that helps bring other people, definitely in high school, you want to, everybody wants to be that popular kid, so people follow and things like that. What were some of the like specific tactics that you maybe did for recruiting high school kids?
There were 3 keys. I wrote handwritten letters. It was really big in social media, and I bragged on the program as much as I possibly could.
So the first thing you just said there, kind of, I wouldn't have guessed it in 100 years, the handwritten letter. And here's why I say that. There is some belief, like in our age and in private business sector, that, if I write handwritten letters to my customers or my potential customers, like they'll see the time I took out, right? I have a little bit different philosophy of like, hey man, if you text me, you took time to text me. I appreciate that, whether it's handwritten or not. But and maybe, I don't have high school kids. My kids are still young, and I haven't been a high schooler in quite a while. High school kids actually care about handwritten letters? This was
the philosophy, and this was the vision I built in my head. How many kids, high school kids are always what? They're always on their phone all the time, okay? So therefore, they get text messages from hundreds of text messages a day from, 20 different people. They get a text message, it's no big deal. Right. It's very easy to ignore a text message if I were to find them and text them or whatever. So my very first point of contact was always writing them a handwritten letter. And even on the outside, it was handwritten, because who checks the mail at every household? High school kid doesn't check the mail.
I was just about to say, I don't think it's a high school kid, but
no.
Okay, all right,
so, Mom and Dad get this letter and go, Julie, what is this handwritten letter? Julie opens it up and, it's a letter from the track coach saying he wants me to join track. And so all of a sudden Dad thinks, now Dad's a little more old school. Mom and Dad are a little bit more old school. So you're telling me someone, took the time to write you a handwritten letter and wants you part of the team. So now all of a sudden it's like you get it more in the parents' heads first. Plus, you do that, you're automatically a nice guy. I mean, you've already got parents on your side.
Like on your side, right?
Yes, because you're taking the time to do all that.
I like, that's one thing. And I know, traditionally, maybe you don't want the parent on your side. What I mean by that is like, if the parent says it, the kid's like, well, I ain't doing it. But I see what you're saying. But take a step back from that. What really intrigued me there is your thought process of, a kid is on his phone, his or her phone all the time. They're getting text messages, DMs, etc. You took it on yourself like, okay, well, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm not gonna be another text message, another DM. I'm actually gonna do something that they don't get very often. Maybe they've never gotten it, to be real frank. I mean,
sure.
Come on, yeah. That to me is the interesting part of your thought process there of being different.
Yeah, well, and it's, what's more of an impact? A text message they're gonna get. I'd rather be 1 out of 1 versus 1 out of 100. And so, I mean, what kid's just going to take that handwritten letter? Because I don't write a return address on it. I didn't put from the school.
Hold on. Yeah, you're doing all things different now. Why would you not put a return address? First of all, post office says that's a no-no. Why are you not putting a return address on there?
Because I didn't put from the school, because I was afraid, okay, it's nothing from the school. It's probably some kind of notification about lunch changes or some kind of a, hey, fall break is next week, or something like that. So therefore, it was almost like
a mystery.
It gives them more of a reason to open up, and it gives Mom and Dad more of a reason to ask, "What in the world is this handwritten letter?"
Yeah. So how many are you doing in a season? Actually, you're probably not doing this during the season. This is maybe more summer and fall and winter.
Oh yeah, fall and winter. I am basically looking up. I'm going off. First off, I would ask a couple of football coaches. I definitely asked the athletic trainer. He was huge for me. You ask the athletic trainer because he's at everything. So he's the one that sees the athletes. And the first thing, I never asked, who were the fastest kids. I would always say, who are the most athletic kids? Who are the workers? Give me the kid that's a worker, because hey, if the kid's a worker, they can have success in high school track and field. I'm not telling you that they can win the state championship, but they're going to contribute in some form or fashion. Plus, it's just a good character trait you want on your team anyway.
Sure, certainly.
No one says I don't want the worker. Right. You always want the worker. Right. So we, the athletic trainer. Sometimes I would ask the principal or anything like that, and I would always stick to the newspaper as far as what are the stats, X, Y, Z. And a lot of times I would do the backup, and this is a little psychology.
All right, let's hear it.
Because you get the backup. Because a lot of times, what's the backup? The backup wants to beat the starter. So then all of a sudden, So then all of a sudden, what do I got to do to get better? You can get faster. You can get faster from track and field. And that's where it's, or you get the guy that. I've had kids who I had a kid that ran 10.4, and that ran 10.4 in the 100 and was not the best football player. He didn't grow up playing it, so he, So I had a kid show up who was a skateboarder, and he was the third leg on our 4x1 that won in 2000. Yeah, he came in, and he was I don't know, 5'4". And he came in, and he took off flying, and I saw him, and I said, okay, who are you? And I don't know you. I haven't recruited you. Because, at that point, I was recruiting everybody. He was like, I said, what do you do? What do you soccer player that I don't know about? Are you basketball? He goes, no, I just go to the local park and get on my skateboard.
Wow.
And so, and he ended up being obviously huge for us. So, and I understand too, is I always – at the beginning of every year, I always, at the team meeting, I said, now look, I'm in an elementary school. It's impossible for me to know every kid. I have sent some of you letters. Some of you I have not. That does not mean I don't want you on the team. Yes, I want you here. It's just impossible for me to know everyone. And I never had a problem with that. Like I never heard of a kid not showing up because he thought I didn't want him because he didn't get a letter or anything like that.
So what about, did you ever have, it might be easier to use a football example here, even though, we're talking about baseball, basketball, volleyball, soccer. I'm sure there's other sports. My Alabama background, we didn't have field hockey and lacrosse and those kind of sports growing up, but wrestling, et cetera. But what about the kid that just says, or did you ever have, I should say, a kid who said, yeah, that's cute, coach, but, I'm going to play college football or college volleyball, and I'm going to be in the NFL. I don't need track. How's track going to help me? I don't need it.
Our first individual state champion was in 2013, and I wrote him letters for 2 years. Every 3 months I would write him, and a lot of it was just going over and over and over. I want you part of the program. I can help you get faster in football. It wasn't just the same stuff. It was different ways that how we could provide him value. And in 2013, we were trying to win the region, the boys and the girls in the same year. So one of my last letters was, hey, we're trying to win the region on the boys and the girls, something that the program's never done. I want you to be a part of school history here. And come to find out, his dad basically said, look, he's written you handwritten letters for years. You're going. So basically that's where I had the dad on my side, and funny thing is I just had dinner with him, a couple weeks ago. So
the kid?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We have good relationships with our kids and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, talk about perseverance, man. I love that. That's so cool.
Well, and I just kept thinking, hey, what's the worst he's going to say is no.
So early, so that kid's a great example, and you had some other examples of kids that came in at X and they left the program at faster or jump farther or whatever, things like that. But early in the year, in your career there, you didn't necessarily have that because you were, you're still building on. Were there other ways that you used to convince a football kid, hey, you can say I can make you faster, but maybe a kid doesn't even realize that that's important. Like, he sees his heroes on TV and he's like, yeah, I'm just as fast, even though he may not be. But were there other tactics you used there?
Part of the content of the letters, I always made it was always like, it's a high school kid. Why in the world is he going to listen to me?
Right.
Just because I tell him I can do something doesn't mean he's going to listen, because
Right.
I'm sure once again, that whole rarity, every other track coach is going to say, hey, I can make you faster. I can make you stronger, footwork better, whatever. So I would literally Google, and it sounds like I spent, when I tell you this, it sounds like I spent I'm not a wordsmith. I don't have an English background and all that stuff. So, but I mean, all it takes is a little effort. You go in there, you type in lineman, track and field, football. And I'm telling you right now, you'll have all kinds of different articles that show one lineman, or you look up a history of like the studs, the linemen, the defensive ends, the linebackers, and just look at their history and just glance. And a lot of times in high school, it'll say won the shot put or won the discus. So I would print that out, but then I would highlight it, what I wanted him to read. Because then I thought, if I send him a page and a half article, he's not going to read it, but he's going to read those highlighted notes. And at the end of the day, I would add a little note in there and say, I can, track helped him. I can help you get better at your passion. Like, I wasn't trying to change his passion. Look, I'm trying to, you want to be here? I'm trying to get you there. Like, I made it look like it's a joint thing here. So I did the same thing with basketball.
You'd go find
volleyball.
the studs, the names, if you will, that are in the pros, and like the great Jonathan Ogden, right? The great lineman, and like, look, he actually was a conference champion in the shot put and things like that, and say, hey, this could be you. Like, this helped him reach the NFL. Maybe I'm part of your puzzle to reach college. Or
yes,
yeah,
and it's just one of those where it was like, okay, now it's almost like you gotta eliminate the excuses. So what if he looks at you and says, well, I don't believe you, coach. Okay, I got to eliminate that excuse. So you're not going to believe the NFL player? I mean, so in other words, you eliminate all the doubts that they would have as far as they don't believe you. Or what if I don't like it? Or, well, I've got spring football. Great, go to spring football.
Right.
Well, we do speed and conditioning 2 days a week. Well, then go to speed and conditioning 2 days a week.
Right.
At the beginning, it's all about whatever you can do. Now, I would always tell them, look, if you're playing Xbox and you're missing practice, that's one thing. But
wait, that doesn't make you better?
Right.
I'd have been real good if that would have mattered.
Yeah,
I was kind of a Nintendo guy. I was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
So the key for the letters was the content, and in every letter, I never made every letter the same. There was always some kind of deep variation, because then I always imagined a kid going, hey, man, I got a letter from the track coach. Hey, man, I did too. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, shoot, he's just copy and pasting. Then all of a sudden the moment that I wanted to be special just goes in the tank.
Yeah, you get called out real quick. I think having that discipline to write them helps that. Now, certainly you can just write the same thing over and over, but it's much easier. To your point about cut and paste, if I'm going to type a letter, on my computer, well, it's easy just to change the name and all that. But if I'm writing it by hand and you're talking to a person, that would be easier to keep it personalized and different from the other letters that you're writing.
Well, and it's the same thing as far as like the sales stuff. You sell a product and it doesn't do well, that person's going to tell 10 people. So then all of a sudden the next 10 people that kid talks to, hey, man, I got a letter. Yeah, he wrote me the same one. So then all of a sudden it's like, your credibility is just shot down, that much more.
Right.
But in every letter, I always said, I want you part of my program. In other words, I'm picking you to be part of because at the end of the day, especially today, every kid wants to be recruited. And every kid wants
a good point. Yeah.
And every kid wants to be part of something special. And so that verbiage right there, it hits home that much. I mean, there's several parents that have come to me and going, he still has his letters, like on a bulletin board, or it's somewhere.
This is stuff you hear from a college coach. This is really fascinating to me, because I hear about I'll see it on social media. A coach will show their letter from when they were recruited out of high school to college, and then to your point about every kid wants to be recruited, and boil that down, it's every kid wants to feel special, and every kid is special. You just can't be special. Sure. Not every kid's going to be a gold medalist and an NFL player, but that really resonated right there when you said that every kid wants to be recruited. Well, that's a duh statement when you're talking about a college coach, because everybody wants to, everybody thinks they want to, and everybody thinks they can run college track. I mean, it's not for everybody, but they want to be recruited. Everybody talks about the letters they get and things like that. To bring that to the high school level, that's sneaky. That's good sneaky though.
I'm telling you, it works. I mean, I'm huge testament to it.
And we got more to go through here, but taking a step back, where did that come from? You didn't just wake up one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to write letters." Was it just you reading about college coaches, or what?
Oh no, it was just a matter of, okay, you got to make a difference. Like you got to set yourself apart. Now, part of this too is I mean, it's funny now because I asked a lot of the coaches, not my assistant, but different football coaches, different basketball throughout the school, and I was like, hey, I've got this philosophy of writing letters. Like I'm going to write letters to these high school kids and, recruit and do that stuff. And they laughed at me. They said, they said, you're going to look desperate. Those kids are going to laugh at you. Do not do that. And I think a lot of that was like, you know what? I'll show you. And because I kept thinking and in my mind, there was no way this wasn't going to work. Because at the end of the day, regardless if it's the sport, I mean, even if you don't like volleyball, if you don't like track, if the volleyball coach wants you, that's still special that she took the point to reach out to you. And plus that kid's never had that interaction. The football coach that sees the soccer kid or the baseball kid, hey, you need to do football. We can, and then most of the time they talk about how they can help the program, not what the program can do for the athlete.
It's interesting that you had some people laugh at you and say it wouldn't work, where we would laugh if that statement was made to a college coach. Like, wait a minute, you're going to send letters to high school kids to run for your college program? You're going to seem desperate. That's laughable. Like every college coach right now listening is like, oh, what do you mean? That's what we do. That's recruiting. That's one of the starts of recruiting, before we call them and things like that. And to think that, to transition that down to high school, and that some people were like, oh, you'll look desperate. It's like, what do you mean? That's how it all works, right? I mean, what's in the world? That's amazing.
The next psychology is the timing of the letters.
Oh, really?
Because you got to send them out. Timing's important for one thing, because if you're looking for a certain kid after their game, if there's anything in the local paper about it, you highlight it and you say, great game. Just letting them know that I'm paying attention to you because you're a good recruit and all that stuff. The best is you send your letters before fall break, before Thanksgiving, and before Christmas break. Reason being,
what are those times for?
Because parents talk amongst each other, especially during those big times, and a lot of those times are families. They're going to see their families. Well, in my mind, I was always, hey, you know what? I can't stand being around my in-laws because all he does is brag on his kid. So what am I going to do? Hey, Johnny, won't you tell Uncle Joe who's been sending you letters? So then all of a sudden, you got that where parents love to brag on their kids. Hey, Johnny, tell grandma who's been writing you letters. Tell grandma what you might do in track and field. And then you get the whole, why in the world will you do that? Well, he's recruiting me. Well, of course he's recruiting you. You're the fastest kid in school. You're fantastic. I mean, it's just, in my mind, that was this scenario I played out in my head. So that was always big. I mean, now whether or not anybody was ever talking about my letters during Thanksgiving or Christmas, I have no idea. But you know what? I thought to myself, if there's a 2% chance this happens, by golly, let's go. Let's send it.
Well, I think what you really hit on there was that, we all want to be wanted.
Yes.
Right. When you think about courting and choosing a school, choosing a job, we all want to be wanted. You really hit on that primal part of the brain of like, hey, not just football. My football coach want me because that's who I play. It's like, hey, I got this track coach and they want me too. Well, I've thought about track, but no one ever asked. How many people? This really makes me think, like, how many people could have run track and would have been awesome in track, but they just never were simply asked.
I mean, the amount of one and done seniors we've had, they're phenomenal because they get to the mindset of, well, I'm soccer, go. Then all of a sudden they're like, man, Senior year, I got nothing to do in the spring. Kind of bored. My select team they kind of fell off or whatever. So sure, I'll go to track. And then they absolutely love it. They're like, my biggest thing is I didn't know about all this stuff beforehand. And that's where I'm like, dude, I was trying to get you last year, last season or whatever. So
wow. Well, you'd mentioned before about social media. How does social media play into recruiting? And then we'll move into, kind of building up the machismo of being a member of the track team. But how did social media work for you as a recruiting tool?
I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Instagram.
So it didn't play it at all.
No. It did.
Okay.
I don't have them personally.
Okay.
So I had no background, as far as knowing how to do it and stuff like that. I decided to go all in. So I found out how to do Facebook. I found out how to do Twitter. I found out how to do Instagram, because I know I talked to a lot of coaches and stuff, and they'll go, I don't know that technology. I can't do all that stuff. Right. And first thing I tell them is, that's where the kids are.
All right.
This is where you get them on the phone. This is where you get mom and dad on, that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Plus, you don't think mom and dad like to see their kid on Facebook sharing a story and all that stuff and tweeting and all that. So I had 0 followers. I introduced the Twitter at the first parent meeting, and it was all, you get 10 followers, you might as well think you got 5,000. It's awesome because it's like, holy cow, well, no one's going to join, but it's one of those where you got to jump. Like I'm going all in on this thing. And then finally, I used to say, look, I'm going to tell you when the bus leaves through Twitter. Don't ask me, because it forces them to join that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're tweeting early and often. I mean, it's a lot of it is content. I mean, you don't do anything there is nothing personal in there. There is nothing about anything. I mean, it is straight track and field.
Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. Did you do those, and maybe there was a combination of this, as you coach Brent Wagner, or did you do it under like Boyle County track and field?
Yeah, BC track and field.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I mean, I tweeted out during the meets. I tweeted out before the meets, hey, track teams getting ready to take the track at 5:30 at Mercer County or whatever, And then at the beginning, and I know no one starts winning immediately, but you know what? It's all in how you present it. Sally Johnson just won her heat at the track meet. Mm-hmm. Someone's going, well, shoot, no one knows she got 16th. Mm-hmm. But you know what? She won her heat. Right. So then all of a sudden, someone who's not on the track team is looking at Twitter going, well, I'm way faster than Sally and Jim. Mm-hmm. I used to I crushed Sally in 5th grade in the right. In the agility runs. So if she's doing that well, I could do that well. So, and I mean, it was, and I would tweet about stuff like that. I would tweet dumb stuff. I mean, like, I like Rudolph because Rudolph is a fantastic leadoff leg. I mean, just because he's leading the sled in Christmas. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, just dumb,
Oh, you meant real Rudolph. You didn't have a kid on the team named Rudolph.
Oh, no, real Rudolph. Yeah. I mean, Incredible Hulk would be a fantastic discus guy. I mean, stuff like that. Just, and in my mind, I'm thinking our kids would go, Coach, he's so dumb, but I'm getting a laugh. And if I'm getting a laugh, I'm also building that much more of a rapport, stuff like that. I actually coined the phrase. I mean, as soon as summer was over and we were getting into fall sports, I actually coined the phrase, and I would put a hashtag recruiting season, because I wanted everybody to know, okay, here comes the letters. Here comes who's the next squad that we're going to get. And I mean, because you got to build the hype. You got to build the hype around the season, regardless if you're going to be, if you think you're going to win or not. You got to build that hype. You basically got to. I mean, you got to copy college football and college basketball, And then when I would sign, when a kid would text me and go, Coach, I got your letter, I'm in, I would immediately go to Twitter and say, boys just signed a 5-star recruit.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And the girls just signed a monster jumper. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I mean, and I had proof of concept one night. It was 10:30 at night. It was 10:34, and I got a text that said, Coach, I got your letter. I talked to mom and dad about it. I'm in. immediately I said, boys just signed a 5-star recruit. And I got 3 at 10:30 at night, and I got 3 text messages from current athletes that said, Coach, who do we get? And I thought, holy cow, I got proof of concept. We're in. We're in. So from then on, I did all that. Now, I never really put kids' names on there unless it was results. But I didn't put – I just got a text message from
right.
Logan Arnold that said we won.
Right,
stuff like that. So
did you're talking a lot about Twitter. Was that your main social engagement?
I think at the beginning, because I was more comfortable with it, and I think it was before. Now this is, I don't know the stats and stuff, but I think Facebook was more into it. So I started with Facebook. I was more into Facebook and stuff the first couple of years, and then later on it was the Twitter stuff, because I think the kids started to pick up Twitter more, it seemed like, and then after that I did to the Instagram. So and I would ask kids every year, hey, do we need Snapchat? And they would say no. Do we need TikTok or whatever this other stuff is? No. I said okay, and I wouldn't. I would tell them, look, and I would tell parents, please don't contact me through Facebook Messenger, because, I was always terrified I was going to type something that everybody, hit a wrong button or whatever. So I would say, look, I know how to tweet and retweet. That's it. I'm not commenting on anything. I'm not, don't Facebook message me. You need send me an email or call me or whatever, stuff like that. So, that's how we rock that out. And in our last year, 2018, we had won 16 state championship at 16 and 17, and we had a really good shot to win boys and girls in 18. And I thought to myself, what would bring us over the top? Because I kept thinking, okay, we could win 17 more. We're not getting 5,000 extra fans at the state meet or at our home meet. We're not getting the Dukies to come out and just, the Cameron Crazies and, the Blue and White Club and all that. We're not getting any of that stuff. So I was like, what can I do? So I looked down at the turf. It's where the football team was, and I got managers down there. And I think, man, those kids are out there all summer, So I asked one of the coaches, what do you all pay those high school kids to be out there? So we don't pay them anything. So we just give them some sweatshirts and some gear. I said, you're kidding me. I said, you're telling me the high school kids sit out there all of July in the heat and all of August for hours and hours and hours for some clothes? They're like, yeah, they just – it's the thing to do. Well, we had won at that point. We were getting bigger and bigger. So I thought, So I contacted a kid who had gotten hurt in soccer, and she was rehabbing, so she wasn't doing anything in the spring. I said, why don't you come be our chief of operations? You give a kid a fancy title, they're in.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean to do? I was like, organize jerseys. Mainly, I want you to take videos. Videos and pictures and stuff, because here's the deal. I can't make the people come to track and field, but I got to bring the track and field to the people. And you do that through Facebook. You do that through Twitter, that way I don't have to sit there and film it. I can, we're all coaching and stuff. So, or because we used to get videos just of the state meet, like a parent would film it or whatever. Well, no. I want every meet now. Now all of a sudden it's every meet, and we're watching, we're watching hurdles, and then as soon as the kid gets finished, he walks over to her, because she sends it out on a group text to all the other coaches, and then all of a sudden that kid's looking at that feedback in real time, and then I would always say, look, go down to the shot putters, video the jumpers, because they never get any love. That kid could be throwing at 55 feet, and the people who see it are just the throwers,
right?
Stuff like that. So that's another thing. I wanted to give all the other kids credit, the jumps and stuff like that. And then I tell you what, videos, all of a sudden it's, holy cow, man, I got 30 likes on Twitter. That's awesome. And then all of a sudden it's 50. And then all of a sudden you get people coming to you who you're the track coach, but have never talked to you about track and field in their life. And they're like, dude, I saw that video of your sprint relay. Holy cow, those guys killed it. Now they don't know if it's a fast time or not. They just know that you just destroyed that whole thing.
Right.
Like, yeah, absolutely. And then, then the athletes and the parents and all that stuff, they share it into, it's wildfire. So then all of a sudden that's what brings awareness as far as what your program is, what you're all about. And then you get that many more followers because, well, shoot, I want to watch these videos. So that's how you build your social media and your following through that right there. So
I like when one action creates more than one result, right? So instead of a 1-to-1 ratio, it's 1-to-2, things like that. So with your social media, it sounds like it was working as a recruiting tool. You know, other kids in the school would see that and be like, well, man, I could beat Sally, or man, I want to be on that relay that crushed that, things like that. It's cool to be on the track team. But then those same social media posts were helping your own team's inner self-worth of like, oh man, look, like someone's giving me accolades. Like I was on the social media, they posted that I won this heat or this flight or set a PR, things like that. So I love the one action begets several results.
Yeah. And then I like to just, because the fact of, you know, then all of a sudden in the spring, when the football player goes in the weight room, the football coach is going, hey, how'd the meet go? Now all of a sudden you got, because, you know, guess what? At the end of the day, they want their kids to do well too. Because, you know, winning, and that's another thing too, is winning breeds success. So therefore those football coaches, they wanted us to win too. You know, because hey, that's that winning mentality. If you're around winning all the time, that means you want it that much more and stuff. So, and then that kid's getting other compliments for him other than football. I mean, I've had kids who were dead on football, and you know what? I'm gonna go throw, and threw in college. So.
Oh man, thought they were going the football path, and then realized they're actually a thrower or a track athlete.
Yep.
So with all this social media, and I'm a huge, I think social media is extremely important. I think it gets a bad rap in a lot of cases. It's certainly not perfect by any means, but I do advocate for social media because to me it's just communication. It's just the next phase of how we used to talk and going back around. How did you? Because it's interesting to me, you talked about that you would tweet during a meet, you know, hey, 5:30 warm-ups are starting for the county championships, things like that. So you were modeling, you know, you're a leader as a coach, whether you're the head coach or assistant coach, you're a leader. The kids are seeing that. Did you ever have an issue with kids tweeting during meets, or was that against your school rules or your team rules? And kind of a follow-up with that, how did you deal with social media with 14 to 18-year-olds?
I mean, I always said I had to, you know, tweeting, I would tell them, you know, when you hear that, oh my gosh, he's tweeting during a meeting, it means he's not coaching. Well, do you send a text during a tweet? Do you send a text to anybody during a meet? I mean, I can text. You can text just as fast as you can tweet. Yeah. So it's not.
I thought you taught me something new there for a second. I was like, text during my tweet. No, I haven't. How do I do that? Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. Because again, texting is this. It's replaced phone calls, right? More people probably text than they do phone call. You're saying that you probably text during a meet as a coach, whether you're texting to your assistant coach, hey, meet me at the long jump hit. You're saying that this was just an extension of that for a different purpose, but still a purpose that you valued.
Well, and two is, you know, at the beginning especially, we didn't have somebody in every event. You know, so you had some downtime in the meet. So therefore, when I'm walking around, I'm running from here to here, I've got an extra 15 seconds. And especially, plus I looked at that as I'm helping build onto the future and all that stuff.
Yeah, something that you valued.
Yeah. But now I always told the kids, I said, look, you know, I told them I'm not checking their Twitter and their Facebook. I mean, technically that is them, that is theirs. But if you ever badmouth the team, I always consider that a fireable offense because I always kind of said, look, you know, social media is one of those things where just because you might not like me after practice doesn't mean you can tweet it out to everybody, you know, stuff like that. And I mean, there was only one instance, and that was my first year and that kid was just mad because the Iron Man movie was coming out. And it was the day before it was the midnight premiere right before the conference championships. And I said, look, you can't go because we got conference and it's important. they kind of tweeted something out, and then I had to make a decision. So, but I was like, look, after the meet, you can go 17 times. You just can't go in the premiere.
Right.
And that's just, but I mean, well, we were always good. And plus we always treated the athletes very well and respectful and stuff like that. And so,
yeah, you led.
Yeah, I never had I never worried about, holy cow, what if one of these kids, because I mean, I was very, very upfront from the very first beginning of practice. Look, if you will get fired regardless if you are the fastest kid or not, because you have a problem, just come talk to me. That shows us no respect if you're just going to start bad mouthing and all that stuff. We would never do that to you all. Plus, this is the learning lesson for, young kids anyway.
So as a leader, you're beholden to teach kids as well. So one way of teaching is being that model. Well, I see coach do this, maybe I can do that. How did you talk to these kids about, what they portray? Not specifically, you talked about how, we're not going to badmouth our coach and our program. That's a fireable offense. But, kids, and I shouldn't even say kids, because by the way, adults do it too. But, we'll make the mistakes, sometimes purposely, of 100 million things. I won't give examples. How did you and the staff and maybe even athletic directors and, other members of the school, how did you educate kids on proper social media etiquette versus maybe negative social media?
I mean, I didn't get into details about stuff like that. I tried to keep things more from the track and field standpoint. I mean, I would look at them and say, look, we're not talking trash and we're not bad mouthing anybody, any teammates or competitions. For one, you never give your competition a reason to not like you. That means they'll train that much harder and stuff like that. So, and we didn't get into a whole lot of drama and stuff. We didn't tolerate any of that stuff. So
what are your thoughts on, I see a lot of times it's football and basketball because that's the more publicized recruiting, college to high school. So every once in a while you'll see a coach that'll tweet that, they just saw a recruit's Twitter timeline or whatever, and we stopped recruiting him or her. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, I think I definitely see it from the college's standpoint, for the simple standpoint of you're investing a lot of time in these athletes, and, you're making a 4-year, 2-year investment in these things. So, I mean, you need to know everything you can about these kids. I mean, honestly, I would do it. I mean, that's no different than anything else. It's no different if you're going for a job. If I was a CEO and I'm hiring a CFO, you better believe I'm checking I want to know every single thing about that person. That way there's no curveballs. There's no, you don't want anything unexpected. So.
And my follow-up question on social media before we move on to community, how thankful are you that when you were 14 to 18, there was no Twitter and Instagram and Facebook?
I had some terrible friends. So yes.
I mean, I look at these kids. I'm dealing with social media probably as a 30-year-old and above. It's tough in the sense of you make mistakes and things like that, or you don't know how people are going to read it. Again, when you're reading something versus verbal, you lose a lot of that communication, the tonality and body language, etc. But I think about these kids, we know what trouble we might have gotten into when we were high school. I'm sure you were an angel, Brent, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just so thankful that there wasn't someone there to take a picture, record me, and then blast it out to the world on some of my dumb mistakes. I was a dumb kid, We're all dumb kids in some form or fashion.
And that's the thing. I think some of this has gotten, I don't know. I mean, that's a whole different ball of wax there, but just the whole, like you said, everyone's made mistakes. Everyone's done dumb things. That's how you learn. That's part of growing up.
That's right.
But I've definitely, several of my buddies have text back and forth saying, hey, we're so glad we don't have any of this stuff. We didn't have any of this stuff growing up. I mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I was just curious. For obviously a topic, a tool, social media that played a role in your success of recruiting athletes to the team, giving the team, ego in a positive way of like, hey, look, I'm being rewarded, I'm being recognized for the work that I am putting on track. Let's be real, track's tough. Whether you're doing track for participatory reasons, or you're doing track to become really, really good and be a state champ in college, it's hard. Even I was not very good, and it was hard. So it's hard. So to be recognized, that's a huge deal. It's almost like that. Social media is all about that dopamine, right? When you see the likes and stuff like that, you started the dopamine from getting a letter like, oh man, this coach wants me. I'm wanted to be on that person's team, and then keep following up with it. I love the continuation of following up with it. Like, hey, this kid, we got a big recruit. I love things like that. Again, dopamine hit, dopamine recognition. That's so cool. So what did you do? We talked about, recruiting and some of the tricks and tactics to bring kids from the high school, from other sports onto your track program. We talked about the role of social media, not only in the recruiting of those kids and the future kids that are, coming down the pipeline that you don't even know about one day, but also in recognizing your current members and staff. What did you do? Was there any consideration on what is the role of your track team as a community in the community of Boyle County?
Yeah, I mean, I also took, that's kind of the third piece of recruiting. I call it like the attention part. Like you want to bring, what if the people don't know? People don't know about your program. People don't know about your athletes. What kind of athletes? What kind of people are they? So, okay, brag on them outside of track and field. I remember having a conversation. We were a bunch of buddies hanging out, and someone was talking about somebody, and they're like, is he a football kid? And I just remember thinking, oh, okay. And then they're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know what he does. I think he's a basketball kid. And so I kept thinking, why can't he be a track kid? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, oh, it's a soccer kid. So I was like, so I then coined the term #track kid. So if any football player scored a touchdown, I would retweet it and I would go in the comment, or like if the schools, the school has usually that kind of, they update you on the games and stuff, and they'll go, touchdown by Clint Hillier. I would put on there in the comment, I would put #track kid, just because I wanted everybody to know, oh, that guy runs track.
All right.
Kid hits a 3-pointer at the win. Emmy Harris, I would put on there #track kid. I was driving by, a lot of the ACTs rolling around. 7 kids, what is it, the GSP, the Governor Scholars Program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, it's a Kentucky thing. Maybe it's a Kentucky thing. Okay. Yeah. Governor, like you have to have a certain point GPA and, really, really high grades, really high ACT. I'm looking at it and I'm going, holy cow, 4 of those 7 kids run track. So I put on there, #4 out of 7 run track. Track makes you smarter. I mean, just have fun with it. You got to have fun with it and stuff, because you let everyone know what kind of program you have, and you brag on them if they've done something other than track. Plus it gives you the excuse to always stay in everybody's mind. So it's not just athletics, it's also academics. It's not just winning and gold medals. It's so-and-so did some, they're in the paper for doing some kind of local community service at the animal shelter or whatever, if they ran track for you, look what my track kid's doing,
I love that, raising the importance of being on the track team and being a trackster, if you will. You hear it all the time, that football player, oh yeah, and he also runs track. Like, why can't we flip around? This is the greatest sport in the world, so why can't it flip around and be like, oh yeah, that sprinter, yeah, oh, and he also does football. Like, it's like track.
Well, we had a relay that was crushing it one year, and this was probably 17, and he was one of the best kids, one of the best football players on the team, and 4 of them were there, and they were winning a lot of meets and getting a lot of recognition. And one of the dads, the stud athlete's dad, said, do these kids play football and run track, or are these track athletes? And I thought track athletes that just play football. And I texted him, I said, dude, you're going to get – I might have football coaches wanting to fight me. I said, by golly, don't put my name out there for that. He's like, oh, I did just to stir the pot. So, yeah.
Again, I just love that, raising the stature, the importance of a sport that is – I mean, it's the all-inclusive sport. Just here recently, Alex Heacock, he's the head coach at William and Mary, and they've unfortunately made the decision, the administration, definitely not Alex, to drop men's indoor and outdoor track. And he put together some really, like, you talk about taking a step up from track, and how athletic track is, and the different events from the shot put to the long jump to distance. He took it another level and was like talking about, just the inclusivity of track, the different body types that can do track, the diversity of track. It doesn't matter, Asian, African American, it don't matter. There's been champs in every race and creed has been and can be a champion in track and field. And you can't say that in all sports. The barrier to entry to be a golf kid, to be a good golf kid and a good tennis kid and swimming, the barrier to entry is sometimes impossible for those events. I grew up, there was no swimming pool in my school. I couldn't have been a great swimmer. I couldn't. The barrier to entry was my whole high school didn't have a freaking swimming pool, right? But we had a track. I love that your school, Boyle County, didn't even have a track. And still had a track team and had success as a team and had success individually in track and field. It is truly the sport, capital T, capital H, capital E, the sport, right? I mean, so I love that the things that you're doing is, what, football does that? Well, okay, what makes them so special? Track can do that and should do that, and basketball, and college does that. Okay, well, I'm high school track. Well, we can and should do that as well. The kids should feel important. Good. Then I'll help them feel important.
There you go.
What were some other things that you did kind of in that same theme of if track, or if football does it, or basketball or volleyball does it, track should do it too? Were there any other like events or anything like that?
We did. Well, one of the hardest things I always used to do, it would take me forever for whatever reason, but the apparel, like, your T-shirts, your jerseys, your sweatshirts and stuff. I mean, I didn't just send that off to a local design thing and say, hey, just come up with something. No, I mean, I went on Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, and I tried to copy, obviously not exactly, but some kind of a style. And plus, because I wanted those kids to be prideful, I didn't have a bunch of junk on our T-shirts. It was straight up Boyle track and field on our across our chest all the time. And I wanted to be loud and proud because I wanted those kids walking around to know, oh, that's a track kid. And then, I kind of came up with the slogan. I mean, probably tell my hat, I don't know, but it was always "Can't wait." Can't wait. Can't wait was our slogan from day one, because you know what? Hey, we got a tough workout. Can't wait to go. Can't wait to get after it. I'm going against, that's the most pressure situation I've ever had in my life. In the 100-meter dash, great. Can't wait. Go after it. I got an ACT I got to worry about. Great. Can't wait. It's just that whole mindset. It's that mantra of getting after it. And I mean, that's what we always said. We would always go, all right, hands in. We would say, can't wait. And there was a lot of pride in that whole stuff. And plus, it's something that people commonly say, so therefore, and I had a lot of times someone would go, dude, I mean, like year 5, year 6, I would have coaches call me and go, I need you to come up with a can't wait for me. I'm like, well, you can't steal mine. You can come up with what you want, but by golly, you're not stealing mine. And that was I'm kind of known for those 2 words. So that was a lot of pride in that whole thing, kind of a life mantra and all that stuff. So
I love the action that it begets. Like, can't wait. Like, it's funny, it starts with a negative, right? Can't, but those 2 words together, can't wait, is, man, I can't wait to step on the field. I can't wait to take that test. I can't wait to go do this. It reminds me of the difference in attitude when, the difference between saying, I got to go to church, or I got to go to work, versus I get to go to church, or I get to go to work, that like, hey, I'm looking forward to, I can't wait to step in and compete or do this or that. That's really
Well, it's just change of mindset. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, just 2 words can change your whole mindset when you're talking about anything. It's just a matter of like, hey, and I mean, you can't imagine how calm it, lets those kids, because, at that way, it's way more motivational, and it's more of, I'm ready for this moment. I'm ready for this moment. No one else is. I can't wait for it. Everyone else is nervous. That's what I would, a lot of time I would go, hey, everybody else around here, yeah, they're nervous. You know what we're saying? We're saying can't wait.
Yeah, they want to wait. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to that track meet. I can wait.
Yeah. And then the good thing is, the other thing we did for the community is we actually held we did a breast cancer awareness meet.
Yeah.
And we went all out. The baseball team had done it. You had seen it in other sports.
Big in football, volleyball, and basketball will do. And I've seen football. The gloves and shoelaces, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So how'd you do that in track?
Well, that's where I was kind of like, you know what? If we're gonna, like anything else, if we're gonna go all in. So I was like, the worst thing I want to do is, we're going to do this for breast cancer awareness meet. Great. We'll just put a balloon up and, that'll be the only pink thing around. I was like, no, we're going to rock this thing out. So we took, and I'm not joking, Gill implements, shot put, discus, spray painted them pink.
Yeah.
We spray painted the jump boards pink.
Really?
Spray painted the jump boards pink. And then we had balloons and signs and different things. I was not going to spray paint 80 hurdles.
Yeah.
So we did not touch the hurdles.
Smart move.
Yeah. We did not touch the hurdles, but,
what about
we did do, I know. I was thinking there was something, I mean, a lot of times we would have a t-shirt, a special t-shirt for that. Yeah. But we did spray paint batons. So, and the cool thing is when you do something like this, because you're spending so much effort, and this is not a Boyle County cause. I mean, it's it's everybody's into this. Everybody's been affected, not just Boyle County kids.
Right.
So
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. So we took batons. I talked when we were scheduling meets, I told the coaches what we were going to do. So we actually took the batons, spray painted them pink, and I'm talking bubble gum, pink. Yes, pink as you can get. And during the coaches meeting before the meet, we handed 2 batons to the other teams. That way their boys and girls relays could run with them. And we told them, look, that's what it was. That we did the pink arm sleeves.
Oh yeah.
And they were pink. And I mean, and I was like, there's the guys ate that stuff up. The throwers.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is too, they actually looked, it looked good. Like we got the pictures back and stuff and them running, and it was, I don't know if they looked more athletic, but the whole thing looked cool. It was they ate it up. And it was great.
What was the feedback from, whether it was teams that you invited, or did you have other teams that are like, hey, I want to go to that meet now? Like, was there positive feedback, or just kind of like, yeah, okay, great, we're doing a track meet, but it's pink?
Oh yeah, they just said, hey, we got great feedback, and then the next year they were like, dude, like, what are we doing now? Like, you're doing this again, right? And then the following year we did thyroid cancer awareness, and and that's purple, green, like a teal, and then like a turquoise and pink. So three colors.
Did you institute, or were you able to somehow integrate any kind of fundraising for American Cancer Society or anything like that?
We tried. There was like a cup that you put at the concessions or something like that. But the cool thing we did with the thyroid cancer is anybody that had been affected by thyroid cancer, we had them start at the 100-meter dash, and we gave everyone a balloon. And, we had the starter hit the gun, and they all just walked together across the finish line. That moment was very cool, because you look around and everyone stopped, because it's almost like, hey, this is
something different happening. Hold on, what's going on?
Yeah, something's different happening. And so, and you live and learn, because we didn't do anything like that for the breast cancer meet. So when the guy was reading the stats, the PA system, it was kind of windy, so it didn't get that
The effect.
The facility was fantastic, but it didn't get that moment.
Right.
And so therefore I wanted this one to have a moment. And so when we all walked across, we walked that 100 meters,
Yeah.
it was pretty powerful. And then it was crazy because people in the stands stood up and started cheering and started clapping.
Of course.
Yeah. And you get something like that, that's not rehearsed. And I'm usually pretty detailed as far, okay, there's that, we're going to walk and it's going to be good. And then they started clapping. Oh, geez. It's almost like you're spending all this effort and it's just working out. And what you're doing is, those kids, they want to be a part of that cause, something better than themselves. And so they get on their social media, you invite the local newspaper, and it's just, it's for the greater good. And, that goes beyond track and field. So.
I've already made my stance of what I think about social media. So I'm on social media 24/7, right? And I have not seen this, at least in any kind of major way, meaning like during football season, I see plenty of the breast cancer games and things like that. You probably don't because you went to Western Kentucky, but I follow all of Troy Athletics social media. So you probably don't do, I wouldn't follow my alma mater if that was yours either. They've done the basketball games, they've auctioned off the jerseys and volleyball and things like that. And I love that. I have not seen this in a major way for track. And again, I love this elevation of, the NFL and other sports doing this. That's important because we're raising money for an extremely important cause and we're bringing awareness. I haven't seen it for track and field. I wrote it down. I was going to ask you offline. I'm going to put you on the spot because we're recorded. So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Go ahead.
So if I wasn't going to be a track coach and I wasn't going to be in the private sector serving track coaches, I probably would be some type of author or some kind of media. That's why I love doing, I'm so, humbled that I get to be the host of the podcast and things like that. On LinkedIn, they give you the ability to write articles. So not just a post, but something that lives and can be shared, from now to however long you have your account. So I've got a few articles on real fun stuff like, hey, if you're going to put a double-sided pole vault pit, you need to think about things during construction. Real fun, loving stuff, right?
Yeah.
I would be honored. I would be just thrilled, and we would bring so much value, I think, if you and I would co-author an article about how to bring, and we'll probably focus on breast cancer because it's the most easily visual, pink, everybody knows, I shouldn't say everybody knows it, but there's precedent there, how to transform one of your home meets into a cause awareness meet. Again, would focus on maybe breast cancer. Talk about some of the things that you did, from the spray painting the batons and giving them to the teams so they can use, not just your team, the implements, I have some ideas. Maybe I got new product ideas from this, to be real frank.
There you go.
But and then the other things that I wouldn't think about, I'm an equipment guy, so I wouldn't think about the 100 meter of survivors, things like that, the balloons, how do you incorporate social media into it, et cetera. I would be just so humbled if you and I would work together on something like that to share to other track coaches, colleges and high schools of, hey, here's an idea for you if you want, maybe this is a way to help elevate your program within your athletic department, within your community, and do good at the same time, by the way, bringing awareness to an issue like breast cancer. Would you consider that?
Can't wait.
Dude, that's it, man.
And here's the deal. And I'm not just saying that because I'm recorded. I'm being dead serious. I'm being dead serious.
This lives forever, man. People are going to come back and be like, hey, I heard that Brent Wagner interview 10 years ago. I still don't see an article. That's right.
There you go.
We're going to get to it. It'll come out. We'll what is, I don't even know when it is. What are we, September? Really, we need to work on it, see if we can't get it done before like January, February, March is before outdoor. So maybe someone can put it into effect there, but definitely by the fall of next year so they can be preparing for spring of 22. I think that'll bring so much value, not only to our sport, and that's key to me, right? Our coaches are number one to what we do here. We just got done doing our annual strategic planning, and one of the topics that we came up with is our mission statement. So Gil's mission statement is, we empower coaches with innovative equipment. And we talked about, should we change it, and how do athletes play into that? And certainly, we care about athletes. Our athletes are throwing our javelins and things like that. But at the end of the day, when we were talking about our primary thought process. When we build a new pole vault standard, when we think about changing how we do pits, it's always about, well, that coach. That coach has to coach kids. What can we do to help that coach just focus on the thing that they love to do? They love to coach. Coaches don't love to do paperwork. Coaches don't love to deal with the red tape. They don't love to deal with da. They want to get their feet in the sand pit and coach long jumpers. They want to go to the pole vault pit and see a kid succeed. So what do? We work on how do we build equipment that they can afford and be part of their budget, safe, last long, so you don't have to worry about your equipment. You just worry about coaching your kids. So to me, this is another way of like, oh, how can we help coaches elevate their program and get more kids, do good all at the same time? Doing something like this, man.
Well, and the coach will get so much gratification because he'll just notice the kids, and that's the thing. It's like anything else; it'll multiply because all of a sudden, hey, I guarantee you, if you ask any kid what one of their favorite meets was, it was, oh, I'm into that breast cancer meet, because at the end of the day, yes, I mean everyone, because when other teams showed up in pink, pink shoelaces and, all that stuff. I mean, you went around it and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
that's the way we'll do it. We'll talk about if you're going to be the host, here are some ideas. And then also, okay, if you're going to be the host, here are some ideas to suggest for your visiting teams. You can go pick up cheap shoelaces like you talked about. The sleeves, maybe you just do, if you can't afford a sleeve, I don't know how much they are, but you get wristbands or what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the cheek tattoos,
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah.
Just things like, just to get them thinking and bring it to a community.
Oh, when the coaches always my hat always said, can't wait. Now, it said, can't wait in pink. I mean, I got a special hat and all that stuff. So, dude, if you're going to do it, you gotta go in, man. You gotta go all in. I'm telling you.
Let me tell you what, I can't wait to do this article and bring this out to coaches and their programs, man. Dude, this has been a blast. This really has. I am so thankful that you would reach out to talk about this. I mean, this is, when we started the podcast, it was about how do we bring value to coaches. At the end of the day, how do we bring value? And a conversation like this, I think, helps high school coaches who are struggling with, man, I've got 20 kids. How do I get 60?
Yes.
This is it. This is how you do it. Man, I don't understand Twitter. I'm not going to get, hey, maybe here's some encouragement that, you know what, you can. It's not, I don't want to put this in the bad way and say it's not rocket science, but it's not rocket science here. These are things that you can do, little incremental things. And I love that you added on in your 9 years as the head coach. It wasn't like all this happened in 2011. This wasn't all done. He's like, oh, okay. And then you added some more in 12 and 13 and 14, 15, honed your craft, if you will, as you went along. That's all we're asking for other coaches.
I mean, we did at one recruiting, like the recruiting campaign, we always called it. We did a national letter of intent, and it said, I will take I will sign up for BC track and, run track for BC. And so when they signed the letter, I took a screenshot of their signature, and so-and-so just signed in for track and field. I mean, now, don't get me wrong, it takes time, but I'm telling you right now, I mean, I never looked at it as work,
right? Because
holy cow, once again, you want to be the top dog in the school. You got to do a little bit, because that's right. We're not football. We're not basketball. We're not other ones. So you want it, you got to go after it. That's the main thing. You want it, you got to go after it. So
that's it, man. That's a great way to end it right there. Because you're exactly right. You ask your kids to do the work. Well, you got to put in some work too, right? That's it, man. And the good thing is the majority of our coaches are, and just so thankful for them. Brent, thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Enjoyed it. It'd be awesome.
This is great. Can't wait. I can't wait to hear the feedback. This is going to be a good one, man. Have an awesome day.
Awesome. Thank you.